Good morning, student. This is part 3 of the chapter Theory of Income and Employment. And in this video, we are going to learn about the determination of equilibrium level of income and employment. There are two approaches to determine the level of income and employment, students. And the first one is aggregate demand and aggregate supply approach. And second is saving and investment approach. First, we are going to learn about aggregate demand and aggregate supply approach. According to Keynesian's theory, the equilibrium level of income is determined where aggregate demand is equals to aggregate supply. Keynesian theory के accordingly equilibrium level वहाँ है बेटा where the aggregate demand is equals to aggregate supply. What is aggregate demand? It means that the total demand of all goods and services in an economy during an accounting year, and AD is equals to C plus I. मैंने यहाँ पे C plus I बेटा इसलिए लिया है because when you will read the assumptions further you will get it. Keynesian has assumed that there is a two-sector model. Okay, in my previous video when I have explained you aggregate demand, that is C plus I plus G plus NX, but here I have taken only C plus I because Keynesian has taken an assumption of the two-sector model and it is an closed economy also. Next is aggregate supply. It refers to the total value of output of goods and services produced in an economy. That is how much the goods and services are produced in an economy during an accounting year. Assumptions of the theory. First one, this theory assumes the two-sector model. Second, it assumes closed economy. Third, this theory is developed on the assumption of short run. Fourth, it assumes that price level remain fixed. These are the four assumptions of this theory. Now, the chart. Y means income, C means consumption, S is savings, I investment, AD is aggregate demand, and AS is aggregate supply. When your income is 0, still your consumption is 50. It means you are dis-saving. That is why saving में हमने क्या लिखा है -50 and investments 100 it is there. Aggregate demand of the commodity at present is 150 because aggregate demand is C plus I and aggregate supply is 0 at this time. Now, when the income is 100, consumption is also 100 and savings is 0, investments is 100, aggregate demand is 200, that is C plus I, aggregate supply C plus S, 100 plus 0 is 100. When the income is 200, consumption is 150, it means you are saving 50 rupees, 200 minus 150, that is 50. Investment is same, that is 100. Aggregate demand is 250 and aggregate supply is 200. Now your income is 300, consumption is 200, it means you are saving 100, investment is 100, AD is 200 plus 100, that is 300, and aggregate supply 200 plus 100 is 300. When your income is 400, consumption increases from 200 to 250. Savings beta 150 हो जाएंगी, that is 400 minus 250 is 150. Investment same है, aggregate demand कितना हो जाएगा 250 plus 100 C plus I, that is 350. और aggregate supply कितना हो जाएगा बेटा 250 plus 150, that is consumption plus savings. 250 plus 150 is 400. When your income is 500, the consumption is 300. It means your savings is 200. 500 minus 300 is 200. Investments remain 100. Aggregate demand कितना हो जाएगा बेटा C plus I, that is 300 plus 100 is 400. And aggregate supply is 300 plus 200 C plus S, that is 500. If you are observing the chart here, when your income is 300, at this point AD is equals to AS. और हमने पढ़ा है Keynesian theory that AD is equals to AS is an equilibrium point. It means when your income is 300, the aggregate demand is equals to an aggregate supply. This is an equilibrium point. The same thing we can read with the help of the graph also. OX axis contains the income and output. OY contains the plant consumption and investment expenditure. OY curve is an income and AS curve, that is aggregate supply curve. And C is a consumption curve. AD, that is an aggregate demand, that is consumption plus investment. In the given diagram, equilibrium is determined at point E because at this point AG is equals to AS, E point equilibrium है बेटा. Accordingly, OY0 is an equilibrium level of income. It means OY0 क्या है? Equilibrium level of income है. AD is C plus I, which indicates the consumption and investment in a two-sector economy. And C curve is a consumption curve, which starts from y-axis because it is directly related to income. And even when income is zero, consumption is there. AS is a total amount of goods and services in an economy. I hope this is clear. All these points. Now, at O1 level of income, AS is greater than aggregate demand. If you will see the graph, O1 point is at which aggregate supply is more and aggregate demand is less. And at OY2 you will see demand is more and supply is less. Because at OY1 supply curve ऊपर है aggregate demand से, and at OY2 you will see the demand curve is above the supply curve. I hope it is clear. Now we will read. At OY1 level of income, aggregate supply is greater than aggregate demand. It means flow of goods and services in the economy tends to exceed their demand. It means supply ज़्यादा है इस point पे और demand कम है. As a result, some of goods would remain unsold, जिसकी वजह से कुछ goods क्या होंगे, sold नहीं हो पाएंगे क्योंकि demand कम है. To clear the unwanted stocks, the producers would plan to cut in production. Producers को क्या करना पड़ेगा? अपने stocks को clear करना है. They have to cut down their production. Production कम करना पड़ेगा. Consequently, AS would reduce to become equals to AD. और जब वो सप्लाई कम करेगा तो AS AD के इक्वल हो जाएगा. This is how AS adapts itself to AD. तो मतलब क्या हो जाएगा बेटा यहाँ पे? AS AD के इक्वल हो जाएगा इस तरीके से जब प्रोड्यूसर अपने प्रोडक्शन को कम करेगा. Now at OY2 level of income, मैंने आपको ग्राफ पे दिखाया था, एग्रीगेट सप्लाई इज़ लेस देन एग्रीगेट डिमांड. यहाँ पे सप्लाई कम है और डिमांड ज़्यादा है. फ्लो ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज इन द इकोनॉमी टेंड्स टू बी लेस देन देयर डिमांड. इट मीन्स सप्लाई कम है और डिमांड ज़्यादा है. एज अ रिजल्ट द एग्जिस्टिंग स्टॉक ऑफ द प्रोड्यूसर्स विड बी सोल्ड आउट. तो जो स्टॉक है वो पूरा सोल्ड आउट हो जाएगा. टू रीबिल्ड देयर डिजायर्ड स्टॉक द प्रोड्यूसर्स वुड प्लान ग्रेटर प्रोडक्शन. इट मीन्स प्रोड्यूसर्स क्या करेंगे? प्रोडक्शन ज़्यादा करेंगे और एज वुड इंक्रीज टू बिकम इक्वल्स टू AD, जिससे सप्लाई इंक्रीज होगी और वो डिमांड के इक्वल हो जाएगी. दिस इज़ हाउ अगेन AS कन्वर्ज विद AD. इस तरीके से AS फिर AD के इक्वल हो जाएगा. Hence the equilibrium will be stable at point E where AD and AS are equal to each other. It means equilibrium point क्या है? E, जहाँ पे AD AS के equal है. I hope all these things are clear about the equilibrium level of income and employment with aggregate demand and aggregate supply approach. Now we will learn the second approach, that is saving and investment approach. Equilibrium level of income and output According to saving and investment approach beta, it refers to that level at which planned saving and planned investments are equal. Where planned savings is equals to planned investment, that is an equilibrium point. Actual savings and actual investments are always equal, but planned savings and planned investments are equal only at the point of equilibrium. इन्होंने क्या कहा, एक्चुअल सेविंग्स और एक्चुअल इन्वेस्टमेंट्स हमेशा इक्वल होते हैं, बट जो प्लान्ड सेविंग्स और प्लान्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट्स होती हैं वो इक्वल कब होती हैं, ओनली एट द पॉइंट ऑफ इक्विलिब्रियम. एजम्पशन ऑफ द थ्योरी, दिस थ्योरी एज्यूम्स द टू सेक्टर मॉडल. ये टू सेक्टर मॉडल को एज्यूम करती है. इट एज्यूम्स देयर इज अ क्लोज्ड इकोनॉमी. थर्ड वन, this theory is developed on the assumption of the short run, and the fourth, it assumes that price level remains the fixed. These 4 points are same as we have learned in the assumptions of aggregate demand and aggregate supply approach beta. Same assumptions is to be followed here also. Now the chart, Y is an income, C is an consumption, S is a savings, I investment, AD aggregate demand, and AS is aggregate supply. Same chart I have drawn it here, which I had drawn in aggregate demand and aggregate supply approach. When the income increases, consumption increases, but not at the same rate. Savings also increases. Investments is same. Aggregate demand and aggregate supply we have calculated. Aggregate demand is C plus I and aggregate supply is C plus S. We can see here when the income is 300, at this point saving is also 100 and investment is also 100. Means this is an equilibrium point. I hope it is clear, because in a saving and investment approach, at the point where saving is equals to investment, that is an equilibrium point. Now, with the help of a diagram, OY axis contains the income and output and OY axis contains saving and investment approach. I had explained you about the saving curve, that it starts from the negative Y axis because consumption is there even when there is no income. It means we are doing this saving at this time, है ना? And at OY income, there is an equilibrium point, because at this point saving is equals to investment. That's a parallel line to X axis. This is an investment line. And if we are observing here at OY2 level of income and output, that is planned saving is E2Y2 और planned investment क्या है बेटा, H2Y2. इट मीन्स यहाँ सेविंग्स ज़्यादा है क्योंकि सेविंग्स का कर्व ऊपर है और इन्वेस्टमेंट का कर्व नीचे है. दिस मीन्स दैट हाउस होल्ड्स एग्रीगेट एक्सपेंडिचर इज लेस देन आउटपुट. इट मीन्स एक्सपेंडिचर कम हो रहा है आउटपुट से. एज अ रिजल्ट इन्वेंट्रीज इंक्रीजेस, जो स्टॉक होगा वो बढ़ जाएगा. फर्म सीइंग अ बिल्ड अप ऑफ अनप्लान्ड इन्वेंट्रीज स्टार्ट कटिंग द प्रोडक्शन, वो प्रोडक्शन कम करेगा and hence the output falls और output कम हो जाएगा. At OY1 level of income and output, अगर हम OY1 का देख रहे हैं बेटा, at this point planned savings is H1Y1. यहाँ पे सेविंग का कर्व नीचे है इन्वेस्टमेंट से, और प्लान्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट क्या है बेटा, E1Y1. It means here the investments are more and savings is less. This means that aggregate expenditure is more than output. Aggregate expenditure ज़्यादा है और output कम है. Firm seeing a depletion of planned investment step up production. यहाँ प्रोडक्शन वो इंक्रीज करेगा. लीड्स टू इंक्रीज इन इनकम एंड आउटपुट लेवल. जैसे इनकम एंड आउटपुट लेवल इंक्रीज होगा, दिस प्रोसेस विल कंटिन्यू टिल प्लान सेविंग एंड प्लान इन्वेस्टमेंट्स बिकम इक्वल. एंड ये प्रोसेस चलता रहेगा जब तक प्लान सेविंग और प्लान इन्वेस्टमेंट इक्वल नहीं आ जाते. इट मीन्स एट द पॉइंट OY where equilibrium level of income is equals to equilibrium level of output. It means E is an equilibrium point. I hope both the approaches are clear to everyone. Now, here are few questions which we have to solve, because in the exams they can ask you how much is the value of MPS when MPC is 0.8. I had told you the relationship between MPS and MPC, that MPC plus MPS is equals to 1. The same formula I had used here, that 0.8 plus MPS is equals to 1, because MPC 0.8 है, MPS हमको नहीं पता है, and to calculate MPS what we have done, MPS is equals to 1 minus 0.8, that is 0.2. In the same way, they can ask you about the APS and APC also, students. It is not necessary they will only ask you to MPS and MPC. I have told you the relationship between APS and APC also. They can ask that also. This is a second question, that is calculate MPC, MPS and APC from the following data. Here you have to calculate beta MPC, marginal propensity to consume, marginal propensity to save and average propensity to consume. In the question they had given you income and consumption, and to calculate MPS we need savings also. Therefore I had calculated saving first, that is saving is equals to income minus consumption, that is 100 minus 95 is 5, and when the income is 110 and the consumption is 104, then the saving is 110 minus 104, that is 6. I hope it is clear. Now, to calculate MPC, I had not used the formula, that is MPC plus MPS is equals to 1, because in that formula both the values are unknown. I had used here, that is change in consumption upon change in income. It means MPC is equals to 104 minus 95 divided by 110 minus 100, that is equals to 9 upon 10. Therefore, MPC is 0.9. And in MPS, change in saving upon change in income, 6 minus 5 divided by 110 minus 100, that is equals to 1 upon 10. It means MPS is equals to 0.1. And average propensity to consume, that is consumption upon income, that is 95 upon 100 is 0.95, and when consumption is 104 and income is 110, APC is 104 upon 110, that is 0.94545. I hope it is clear. This is the next question. Calculate the following table. They had given the income and consumption, and they asked you to calculate APC, APS, MPC and MPS. We have to calculate the four things here. First, I had calculated average propensity to consume, that is consumption upon income. 240 divided by 400, it is 0.6. 320 divided by 500, again 0.6. 395 divided by 600, it is again 0.6. 465 divided by 700, it is again 0.6. Now, to calculate average propensity to save, we can use the two formulas here. First we will calculate savings, then we can do saving upon income, or we can use the relationship between APC and APS. I had used a relationship here, APC plus APS is equals to 1. ठीक है बेटा? And APC we had calculated 0.6. It means APS is 1 minus 0.6, that is 0.4. Because APC values are same, therefore APS values are also same. Now, to calculate MPC, always remember, for the first income and consumption, there is no MPC and MPS. We will calculate MPC and MPS from the second level of income, that is, according to this table, will calculate from 500. Because to calculate MPC, what we have to do, we have to calculate the change in consumption upon change in income, that is 320 minus 240 upon 500 minus 400, but we will get the final answer for MPC is 0.8. Now when your income is 600 and your consumption is 395, it means MPC is 395 minus 320 and 600 minus 500. When we will upon this, we will get 0.7. In the same way, we had calculated when income is 700 and consumption is 465. That is change in consumption upon change in income. 465 minus 395 divided by 700 minus 600. But we will get 0.7. And to calculate MPS, I had used here again the relationship MPC plus MPS is equals to 1. That is 1 minus MPC करेंगे तो हमको क्या मिल जाएगा? MPS. 1 minus 0.8 is 0.2. 1 minus 0.7 is 0.3. 1 minus 0.7 again it is 0.3. I hope it is clear now. Now the assignment. Question number 1. Define induced investment. I had explained you in the government investment. This point, write it from there. Second one, APS, that is average propensity to save. Write the formula also with the definition here. Question number 2, difference between the extant demand and exposed demand. I had explained you this. Write in column because they had asked you the difference. Question number 3, what is meant by aggregate supply? Write the definition and the formula also here. Question number 4, distinguish between MPS and MPC. Again, you have to write the definition and the formula. How to calculate MPS and MPC and write it in column because they had asked you the difference. Question number 5, explain with the help of the diagram the determination of equilibrium level of income and output using aggregate demand and aggregate supply approach. You have to write the assumptions, chart and the graph with their explanation. I hope all these answers are clear. Write these answers in your copies and thank you students.